Greetings everyone, my name is Greg. In this video I am going to be talking about politics. The election, Donald Trump being the president-elect, Hillary Clinton, the Electoral College, and why some want to remove the Electoral College and make it that the election goes by popular vote, why that would be absolutely disastrous to democracy. And worst of all, what I regard as the most disgusting of all, is the paid protesters. People that are protesting is their job, of all things. But to begin with, the aspect of Donald Trump becoming president, it caught the media by complete surprise because of their bias. I realized Donald Trump had used the term of things are rigged. I think that was a wrong choice of words. What would be more accurate to say is the media bias. That there is a serious bias in the media. That those that are controlling the companies, the media established companies, they have their own agenda, and they're interested in pushing their agenda and spinning the news to fit their agenda. The thing is, when it came to the Electoral College and the voting, I just want you to see the Electoral College aspect and the electoral votes. That Donald Trump won 290, Hillary got 232. But the most shocking of all for me was Pennsylvania. Because when I left the house last Tuesday, Pennsylvania was showing as light blue. And while I was out, it turned to light red. And then it turned red. And it was a co-worker that had brought to my attention, Lebanon County was the last county in Pennsylvania to get its votes pretty much tallied. And that is what turned Pennsylvania, was the overwhelming support for Donald Trump. Because what it comes down to, at least in my opinion, is at least half of the votes that Donald Trump got were not so much because people are in favor of Donald Trump, but rather it was a vote against Hillary Clinton. I would say that is at least half to 3/4 of the issue. That it was more of, we don't want her. We want anybody but her. The reason being, she is a political shill. Her foundation has taken donations from all kinds, like a Saudi Arabia prince, George Soros, you name it. George Soros is a name that comes up frequently when I do research on this. And he is someone that is, his net worth shows at about $25 billion. And he has a definite agenda of what he wants America to be like, which is really disgusting given the fact he's not American. He's from Hungary. I have no problem with immigrants. What I have a problem with are people that want to pay people to protest, because that brings in a lot of problems. The thing is, there is the Electoral College, but that's not even, in a sense, the worst of how things look for Hillary Clinton. Because when you get into the aspect of by counties, Donald Trump won 3,000 84 out of 3,141 counties in America's heartland. Yet there are people who believe those remaining 57 counties should dictate the fate of the future of the entire United States. Let that sink in. That graph that you're seeing there really shows just how flawed the popular vote would be, because what it comes down to is population. And I find this is from Wikipedia. As of April 1st, 2010, the date of the 2010 U.S. Census, the 9 most populous U.S. states contain slightly more than half of the total population. The 25 least populous states contain less than 1/6 of the total population. And here's the kicker with the popular vote. California, the most populous state, contains more than the 21 least populous states combined. Really let that sink in. If we would go by popular vote, in large part, the people that are for this are really saying they want California to dictate elections. Those that are paid political shills would absolutely love this, because then they can focus their money and focus their influence on that one major populous area and fuck the rest of the country. You would not have politicians going to the least populous states, because who cares? The thing is, I really want to break this down as far as what we're really looking at, because you really get a sense of it when you see states and territories. Because population estimate as of July 1st, 2015, California, 39 million. Texas, 27 million. Florida, 20 million. New York, 19 million. The thing is, when you come over, and this is why the Electoral College is so important, because you have a massive, because when you look down at different states, like Indiana is at 6.5 million, Tennessee, 6.5 million. Then you get down to Oregon, 4 million. Oklahoma, just under 4. Iowa, just over 3. Utah, just under 3 million. Mississippi, Arkansas, Kansas. But it gets even worse when you get down to areas like South Dakota that aren't even at 1 million. North Dakota, Alaska, Vermont, Wyoming. And when you get into the percentage of the U.S. population, California is at 12.18%. Texas, 8%, about 8.5%. Florida, 6 1/3. New York, just over 6%. Now, one thing I had checked, because I'm one for numbers, 12.18% for California, and this is U.S. population. 8.55 for Texas, 6.31 for Florida, and 6.16 for New York. You're talking 33% of the U.S. population contained in 4 states. Now, just going by that, Is U.S. population, is going by the popular vote really fair? Because essentially it is saying if you live in a less populated area, you're fucked. You don't matter. It's garbage. This is why the Electoral College is so important. The thing is, what you see in this column, estimated population per House seat, and beside it you see the total number of seats in the House of Representatives from 2013 through 2023. California has 53 electoral seats. Texas has 36, Florida 27, New York 27. Reason being is, crap. Didn't mean to do that. But the reason being is when you see the population number here, it's a huge number. Per seat is 738,581 people. And when you look, the numbers in population greatly differ between the states when you get down to things like Idaho and Delaware and Vermont and Wyoming. The thing is, the estimated population per seat is relatively the same. It's very, very close. It's far closer because for most of them, you're talking within 700,000 people. It's only a few that it goes up to, like Oregon. It goes and it covers 800,000 people per seat. But there are areas where, like Montana, they have one seat. So their entire million population is comprised in that one seat because it's not enough to warrant 2 seats. Whereas some are even, with Wyoming, they're not even at 700,000 because their state population is so low. Now, the thing is, what this really shows is the electoral votes are very important, very much so. The thing is, there is the only change that I would see as being even remotely viable is not doing away with the Electoral College, but basically breaking it up into sections in the state. Whereas, for example, California having 53 seats, to be able to split California, much like they did with, it's the aspect of, you see up in Maine, it's a red sliver and a blue sliver. The electoral votes in Maine were split. That would be something that I would say could be done as well. That it would cover not just the state, but basically electoral regions. That somewhere like California, because it has so many seats, that you would have, and that's where most of California, I hate to say it, most of California would have still gone to Trump. It would only be, in what I'm putting forward, it would only be the seats that would be comprised in the areas that are blue. That the areas that are red in California would still go to Trump. And that is where, even in like New York, most of New York is red. There's only a sparse area of New York because, frankly, a lot of New York is not as populated as New York, New York. Most of the population of New York is crammed into one small area. So what you have are the political shills like Hillary Clinton and those that fund her, like George Soros. They want to be able to focus their money on areas that, frankly, they're going to get the most bang for their buck. And in that regard, I can't say, business-wise and so forth, I can't say as I would blame them. However, as far as is it fair for the country, absolutely not. Because what you have is, even though, and let me just shift this, so you see just the West Coast with California, Nevada, Oregon, and Wyoming, or Montana, the one, Washington, that went to the Democrat in the aspect of counties, most of that in the other is red. What turned those states were very small pockets in that state. Much like how Pennsylvania was turned largely because of Lebanon, Pennsylvania. It was the last to declare. The thing is, I do not feel that one small region of a state should be able to turn the entire state. That's where I'm thinking having it split into the different seats. Now, that might make it way more complicated for the political process, and it may not be viable in that. But the truth of the matter is, we need to keep the electoral seats in order to have it fair population-wise for the most people. But what really gets disgusting, and this came from a co-worker of mine, one of my guys at work, where I am in charge of receiving. He had sent me the Craigslist link to where people can... Now, I switched it to Philly because he had it down at Harrisburg. And even at Harrisburg, you see, like, this one. And this is what really I find disgusting. The aspect of Stop Trump, up to $1,500 a week. Hold the fucking phone. It's one thing for people to, and I'm not opposed to people having their different political views. That's fine. But if your job is to have a political stance on this or that, your stance is not really accurate for what do you believe. Because it is going not by necessarily what do you believe, but what suits you monetarily, what suits you, what you have to say because of your job. And what I find absolutely disgusting about this is hourly rate plus bonus. What exactly, and it doesn't specify what a person has to do to get a bonus. What, does it have to be like Ferguson was with causing violent protests, if not killing people, blocking traffic? I mean, there's all kinds of things that what exactly is being promoted by those that are posting a job like this? And no previous experience required, full-time, part-time positions, no fundraising, no commission. It really, I find it disgusting, because the aspect of, with protests and with people protesting different things, if you're being paid to be a protester, then you can be there just to basically put in time. I see the mindset where I work of, there are some that are there just to get a paycheck. They're just there to put in the time. They don't really give a fuck. They just want to do their job and get their paycheck. When you're talking people protesting something, if you're protesting something just to get a paycheck, your protest is not valid. You're not really protesting to protest. You're protesting to get a paycheck, which to me, it renders the protest null and void. It's meaningless. So what if you're basically a paid or a professional protester? Now, with this one, no experience necessary. You simply need to care about defeating Trump and electing Hillary Clinton for president and Kate McGinty for Senate. Really. You don't have to have experience, but they do say you have to be interested in getting our person in. And that is something, it's one of, wait a minute, what if they need a job, they need a paycheck, but they really don't like Hillary Clinton and they're not interested in your agenda? The thing is that the job requires that a person take a position in support of Hillary Clinton. And one of the things, the aspect of defeat Trump and work for good jobs, fair wages, so forth. What kind of jobs? Jobs where you have to, where you're being told what your political position will be on something? What's next? Jobs where they tell you what religion you are? Or jobs where they tell you what your thoughts are in, who knows, maybe sports teams. Maybe some rich cocksucker's going to get to where, oh, the Patriots lost in a football game. Let's have protesters to protest that. We're going to pay them to protest that. But someone like me, I don't give two shits about sports. I don't care. The thing is, if that's the only reason you're doing something is because you want to get a paycheck, it really, to me, it's one of, are you kidding? Because let's just break this down and say you're doing 40 hours. That's $600 a week. To do what? To walk around and be at a rally or protest? Do you have to actually do anything? Or are you just walking around? Like, you see so many of these kids, and they're millennials, a lot of them. The vast majority of those that are involved in these protests are millennials. They're young kids that need a job. So what do? $600 a week to walk around and do nothing? Shit, a lot of them want to do nothing to begin with. So the aspect of you're going to give them a paycheck to do nothing, that they're not getting any experience, or experience at what? Protesting and being a shill for you? Where is that valid? It makes me want to puke. But let's just, because I am partially curious of how would it look like Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Stop Trump. Same thing. This one says, Donald Trump is a threat to our very democracy. No, hiring people to be paid protesters is a threat to our very democracy. Wanting to buy a political race is a threat to our democracy. The Keystone Progress is hiring campaign staff to knock on doors and get out the vote around Lancaster County. We're looking for people to commit to a minimum of 2 6-hour shifts a week, up to 5 6-hour shifts a week, $15 an hour. It's a temporary position through November 8th. Okay, that was just to get people to vote. Okay, fine. The thing is, there aren't any that are current. There is that. However, right after, okay, that one, nada. But there wasn't anything. The big one is, and most recent, November 15th. The Trump can't stop grassroots action. Really? The aspect of making it fundjobs.org. Are you serious? You're wanting to talk about a grassroots action that really boils down to, it's a job. They're looking to have people that are hungry for money, maybe needing a paycheck, to go out and say what they want them to. It doesn't mean that it is in line with what the person would actually believe. It's only, you're supposed to say this. We want you to say this. This is your position. This is the job you're supposed to do. The thing is, are they being given, basically, are they full of propaganda and false information that benefits either Hillary Clinton or those that are in, basically the ones that are hiring them? Because it would raise the question for me of, do these people really believe what they're saying? Or to them, is it just a job? Or is it just something to get a paycheck? And if it's just something to get a paycheck, their opinion, I don't care. It's meaningless, because they're only saying what the company that they're working for wants them to say. It really, there's so much that with this, it's just downright disgusting. And it's something that I feel, if it's not criminal, it should be, to have paid protesters, because at what point, if they're going to block traffic and so forth, if a protester gets hit by a car because they're being fucking stupid, there's the aspect that morally, ethically, the trauma that's being caused both to these people that they're just there for a job, but also to the one that would be in a car that would hit them that they wouldn't have wanted to, But if you're going to be walking out into the fucking street, shit's going to happen. And by the same token, if these people are going out gung-ho for their job and they cause riots and they cause damage, be it to property or to people, who's held accountable for that? Who has to pay for that? These are things that have to be addressed. And it really should be made clear. Who is funding this? Let's really break it down. Is this Democrat funded? Because if that would be the case, then that shows massive corruption in the Democrats. Massive. The thing is, I am not pro-Democrat, pro-Republican. I don't give a fuck. For me, I'm more interested in what's the issue, what's the topic, what is the subject at hand, not which team is it. Fuck your team. I don't care about teams. I care about issues. I care about facts, evidence, things that are actually going to help society, not just help your agenda or help whatever rich cocksucker's funding you. I don't care. If anything, some rich trousers stain funding shit like this would it have me more inclined to say, yeah, fuck your team. Fuck it completely. Because just to see, oh, I was born in York, so, but, and two, the credit, there isn't, but York might not be seen as an area that is all that important in the scheme of things. The bigger cities might be what they're focusing on, because they would be looking at the aspect of population and what areas of a state are more densely populated and more inclined to go along with their agenda. It really, I would love to see and hear your thoughts and comments on things of this nature, and what do you think with Trump and so forth? Because frankly, I don't have an opinion of Trump at the moment. My concern right now is more with the Vice President-elect, Mike Pence, because of the insane religious ideas that he has. One of which is the idea that someone that's homosexual can be converted to heterosexuality. It really just has me shaking my head at the stupidity. But then there's like the climate change denier and the implications that has for the planet, for all of us, because of people wanting to, more interested in pushing their agenda than they are the facts. But feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Later, people.